The last time we did a presentation, we talked about the way that all the stressors of our society, the COVID being the biggest one, but also all the sociocultural stresses going on in terms of the conflict in America and financial and economic stresses and so on, creating a lot more worldly pressure, and that pressure and stress and adversity can have value. On one hand, it can take us down and really put us in a bad place, but the other thing is what it can do is it can put enough pressure on us to finally address some of the issues that we've not been attending to in our lives. And so the example I gave last time, as one of many examples, but it's one of the clearest ones, was that in my practice, prior to the COVID experience, I had 4 people who I was seeing for a number of things, but one of them was that there was a problem with alcohol. They were not out of control alcoholics entirely, but they were definitely clearly alcoholic. And so we never quite could get engagement on that. Then what happened with the adversity of this situation and being trapped at home and so on, the pressures got greater, and therefore these people stepped forward, and all of them have gotten into successful recovery. It's really exciting. It's just delightful to be part of that, and really wonderful to see how adversity can push us to become better. But now what we want to do is we want to broaden the focus some. We want to talk some about, okay, but it's not just a thing of saying, okay, I'm going to get sober, here's the rules, here's how I do it. But the thing is, life is much more complex than that. And one of the things we want to understand is that we are part of broader systems, which is one of the most central themes I talk about, is that really being successful in life is learning how to live successfully, not just as an individual, but within the communities of our life, our marriage, our family, our community, our society. The more we can successfully integrate with them, the better it works. And so the other piece I'm going to present on this subject right now is talking about the spouses of alcoholics. And in this case, I'm going to be talking about wives of male alcoholics. And it doesn't mean you don't have the other thing going on. You certainly have female alcoholics with guys who marry them, but you can only do one presentation at a time, so we're going to do this one first. The best way to lead into this is to take a story. If I go back to early in my career, so I was really like early to mid-20s, and this was a really long time ago, and so some of the things that we take for granted now were not part of common knowledge, or even particularly a part of the professional knowledge. So I remember a woman came in to see me who was about 37, 38 years old, and as I got into the story with her, the best way to tell the story is to tell it in terms of kind of her own history. So the way her history started was she grew up in a situation where her father was alcoholic, and he was not terrible, but he was really pretty unpleasant with her. He was emotionally abusive. He was distant from her and so on. It was a pretty desperate situation, and so she did as many young women in that situation do. She wanted to escape her home. And so she met this wonderful guy in high school. They fell in love, and she married him right out of high school and went off with him. And up to that point, he never had anything to drink. She didn't drink. Life was good. They were going to live happily ever after. And then she shares with me by the time they were in their early 20s, like 21, 22, they had a couple of children because they had kids really quickly. And this guy became alcoholic. And so her first response was, wow, did I cause this? Because this guy obviously wasn't that before I saw him, and now all of a sudden he's doing this. And it was a really desperate, frightening thing, because the last thing in the world she ever wanted was to repeat her own history in her adult life. Little did she know that's kind of how that tends to work. And so she really worked hard. They got him into treatment. She got involved in counseling. They worked for a couple of years, but he just kept relapsing, and he really wasn't adequately committed, so she finally divorced by the time she was about 24. She at that point vowed, I'm never going to marry anybody again, and we know how that vow tends to go. That really doesn't hold. We're meant to be connected to somebody else. We're meant to partner in life, and so she was very, very careful in her future moves, and so she met a man. You know, he drank very moderately, but almost not enough not to mention. Clearly didn't have any kind of a chemical problem, and seemed really, really solid in a lot of ways. She went to church with him and stuff, so by golly, we're going to get married. And so they got married, and things seemed really good at first, and then there was this sort of growing discomfort in her. She was kind of like, there's something funny going on here, realizing that their finances were something she could never keep tabs on. You know, he was managing the finances, and it always seemed like they were kind of behind, and she didn't understand why that was. But eventually, within another year or so, she realized, this guy has a gambling addiction. Oh, God. And so he had gotten him in such a hole that eventually they both had to end up bankrupting in the situation. And she divorced him. She didn't have any kids with him anyway. She just wanted to get this guy out of her life. This was a profound wounding for her in her late 20s, and she really stepped back from anything from that point forward, and really was trying to figure out, what can I learn out of this? Well, again, by the time she was like 33 or so, she met this really nice man. His finances were in really great shape. He didn't have any kind of chemical issues. He seemed really good. And now she's here seeing me at 37 or 38 years old, discovers that he has a porn addiction. So this, of course, she feels just crazy. It's like, how does this keep happening to me? Am I just cursed? And in a way, kind of she is. What we come to understand is that one of the toughest things in this life is that the wounds and fears of early life often lead us to, quite unintentionally and quite ironically, recreate dynamics of our early life in our adult lives. This is a theme that we see over and over and over again in counseling. And so it makes the point that says, you can't just say, I'm going to get out of this now and I'm going to find something better, because you're running a program which sort of sets the stage for this kind of thing. So it really makes the point of how she really needed to, in this go-round when I met with her, really work deep within herself and change her own program, which then allowed her to move forward. And in fact, she did. She moved forward, did this real slowly and carefully. I saw her episodically over a few years. Finally, she met a nice guy, and I even kept tabs with her because I really wanted to do my own research about what's going to happen here. And sure enough, he was real solid. It worked out because she had done the healing she needed to do. So if you find that interesting and you want to hear the longer presentation as to how the mechanics of that process actually work, then please go to the box below and indicate you want to see the longer presentation, and we'll see you in just a second. And in the meantime, please remember to sanitize and subscribe.